Welcome, friends, to episode 29 of Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network, where you can tune in for all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the great province of Alberta and its wrestling. Hayden Love joins me, our co-host of the show. I am Spencer Love. We are the Brothers of Discussion, and we're proudly sponsored by Beercade YEG. Join Hayden and I at every WWE pay-per-view live for Over the Top Rope Live. It's a great time. We really enjoy it with the great staff of Beercade. Hayden, I feel like I'm rambling. Please say something.
I would say something about Beercade, but you beat me to it.
Thanks for joining me as always, man. Always fun to talk wrestling with you.
Hey, it's always a privilege, Spencer.
And today is a unique episode of Over the Top Rope. We're very excited.
Are we going to talk about wrestling?
Yes, we are going to talk about wrestling, professional wrestling, sports entertainment, as it were. But we are actually going to let someone else take the reins of Over the Top Rope for the very first time, which is sort of nice. We have a co-host. You may have heard her if you listen to the Double Down podcast, also on the Backbreaker Media Network, which is still a podcast network that is part of Win Column Sports. Morgan Meneghetti joins us here on Over the Top Rope for the first time. Very excited. Thanks for joining us, Morgan. I know how excited, not nervous you are for this.
No.
Not at all.
No, not at all. So confident.
Your family's going to hear this.
Oh, yeah, they are.
100%.
Hi, Mom. Shout out. How you doing?
But Morgan, I guess I will not speak or sing your accolades for you.
Please do.
No, I'm fine. I'm actually fine. We're going to put you on the spot. Tell us who you are and why you join us on episode 29 of Over the Top Rope.
All right, well, name's Morgan. I happen to live with Spencer and cook in the friendly kitchen that Over the Top Rope is often recorded in. And I think it's pretty cool to give the opportunity to get to know your hosts and kind of ask them the questions that they never really get asked. And so, myself, I am a food lover, sports lover, not quite wrestling fan, but I live in a house.
But you're a sports lover.
Yes, I'm a lover of the sports.
Purest sport of them all.
Grappling, Morgan.
Grappling? I'm a
Yes.
fan of the grappling.
Okay.
Yeah. See, and that's where WWE and I meet in the middle. Basically, I love to hate wrestling. So expect me to challenge opinions and be utterly sarcastic sometimes. But regardless, I'm going to ask the questions.
Yeah, the perfect host for this interview.
Yeah, really optimistic.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, I'm going to start out really simply. Is like, how did Over the Top Rope start?
Well, first episode of Over the Top Rope, it's actually pretty funny. A week ago, yesterday-ish, I guess, to sort of timestamp the podcast, was the 1-year anniversary of the first episode of Over the Top Rope.
It's 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Very cool.
My math is off.
Yeah.
You remember better than me. Nicely done. Well, and just to throw you a little under the bus, but like Hayden, so you weren't able to make it for Over the Top Rope, despite the fact that like we advertised you as the co-host. And I did the first one solo, which was fun, but like I feel like sitting and rambling about wrestling for 20 minutes by myself is not good for me and even worse for people to listen to. Though I do it often. Sorry. I think that Hayden and I always kicked around the idea of doing a podcast, and so did Parker and I. Parker just, his schedule is a lot, well, I guess at the time was a lot more unpredictable than Hayden, so he could commit full-time to a podcast. Hayden could commit more full-time to a podcast, and the Brothers of Discussion were born, I suppose. Unless Hayden's got a different idea on how it was conceived.
I deliberately missed the first one, just to clear things up. And no, that's a pretty accurate telling of events, I guess.
So, Hayden, what went through your mind when Spencer first wanted to do a podcast?
I always wanted to do something collaborative with Spencer. I mean, we played the drums and guitar together a mega band. We played.
So you went from family band to wrestling podcast?
I mean, it's a pretty logical second step.
You
if
know,
we're being honest,
basically...
not like Dr. Phil has a podcast now. Fill in the blanks.
Okay, it's good. I've listened.
Exactly. Credit where it's due.
We're not here to give cheap plugs to Dr. Phil.
I hope he returns
He gets more than enough. He's fine himself.
He returns the favor.
Yeah, actually, that's fair. Dr. Phil, DMD. No, Doctor of Medical Dentistry, excuse me.
Yeah, he's not a dentist.
No, he's a psychologist. I don't know what the actual letters for that one are.
I don't know. We always wanted to talk about wrestling. We've been wrestling fans for the past 4 years, 5 years. Well, him longer than me. He liked it when he was a kid. I only started liking it back in 2012 or 2011.
So, I know you guys went to, or at least Spencer did, to PWA shows when you were a kid. Did you go to them as well?
No.
So, Spence, do you remember your first, like, PWA experience?
Oh, yeah. 100%. I've talked about it often. As all of our longtime fan here on Over the Top Rope will know. Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of wrestlers I remember on the card. I remember Michael Richard Blaze was on the card, still wrestling as Chucky Blaze. Emma was on the card. I think that for me, it was such a cool experience. I went alone. I think I've even told you this outside of the podcast because I couldn't find anybody who would really want to go.
How old were you?
2010. 18. It was their 10th anniversary, 11th anniversary show.
Must have been.
What year is it now? It's their 18th anniversary. No, it's their 18th anniversary coming up this year. So it was 10th anniversary show.
Cool.
Yeah.
9th anniversary. Wouldn't it be?
Yes. You know I'm bad at math, man.
We're both bad at math.
I failed statistics for this very reason, and through no instructor's fault, just through everyone's fault of my own. Mm-hmm. But c'est la vie.
Okay, so when it comes to you guys being brothers, has your relationship changed at all since the podcast?
Of discussion. We're brothers of discussion.
Brothers of discussion. Has your relationship changed?
I don't know if I'd say it's changed. It's definitely been enhanced, but just hang out together a lot more.
Yeah, there's like a more formal approach to having to get together, I suppose. I mean, we're, as all of our brothers are, like we're tight-knit. I don't think any of us really have to make an effort to hang out or anything like that. Hayden and I just have to make a more scheduled effort. I think we see our family a ton, but if we're going out for a family dinner or something like that, I can't really bring the podcast equipment over or anything like that. I don't know if the relationship's changed at all, though. Like, we always sit and shoot the shit about wrestling regardless.
We go to a lot more events together. I mean...
Oh, yeah. I think that's changed.
If we want to talk about shows that we've gone to, I mean, he came out to Toronto. We went to Survivor Series 2016 together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Was it 16 or 17? 15.
It was not 15.
No, it was 16.
16. It was not 15.
Yeah. 16 was Goldberg versus Lesnar.
Yeah.
And that was a wicked time. I mean, just got piss wasted. It's more or less the extent of the trip. But,
I wouldn't expect otherwise.
But no, it was a hell of a time. Past that, just regular WWE shows, PWA shows at this point, RCW shows, MPW shows, concerts. Number of concerts, some plays.
What was your favorite play?
Some one-man shows.
Cats.
Oh, Mr. Mistopheles.
I love cats.
So do you think you'd be more productive running a podcast with someone that wasn't your brother?
I'd be more productive not running a podcast. That's for sure.
Overall, not running a podcast at all would likely make us more productive members of society. No, I obviously we would, but we pick and choose. I think Hayden and I are both hard workers in our regular jobs. The nice things for both of us are they're flexible jobs outside of wrestling coverage, or I guess whatever you call this little foofara or whatever it is.
Foofara.
Yes.
I like it.
Beautiful use of the term.
Thank you very much. I use that one sparingly. No, we're very lucky with our work outside of this that we can afford the time to do a podcast. You know, I think we're we're very productive outside of this, and I think we're productive with the podcast as well. It's not as though this is something we do every month or sparingly, or there's no sort of regiment to it. I think we take this, sounds silly to say, but like we take it fairly seriously to do the podcast. I mean, there's stuff we work on. We want to try and talk to wrestlers. We want to try and promote the wrestling scene and the wrestling industry, especially like we talk about it often here on the show, but we especially want to promote the wrestling industry here in Alberta because, I mean, for myself, much like my job outside of this, the sort of non-professionals, because I don't know.
I don't even call them non-professionals.
Well, but like an
The
independent
up-and-comers.
wrestling, yeah, an independent wrestling promotion or a junior hockey team or semi-professional basketball, that sort of stuff is how I got into sports. So for me, it's so important, and working in that side of things and seeing the impact that it can have on the next generation outside of even just Hayden and myself at 26 and 22, we're impacting people, you know, even if like, not to say we've got a huge impact, don't get me wrong there, right? But
We're changing lives.
well, like I even personally know there's been a couple people who have gone on and commented on an article or a podcast or something like that, and
And
they're like,
walking
hey,
into the last RCW show, you were getting compliments.
well, yeah, and like there have been people who have gone and checked out the show that normally wouldn't have, and I think even for me, if it's like I'm sure at this point it's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people. Like we're not money makers by any means or anything along those lines for them, but if you can sort of bring new people to wrestling and get them invested in it and get them to love it the way I'm sure I speak for Hayden, but we love it. Like,
You don't.
sorry, man,
That's all right.
Hayden hates wrestling.
But no, you make a good point, and it has been growing exponentially. Like every PWA show that I've gone to has been bigger than the last, with some exceptions. It's a great thing to see.
But even then, like you see, a lot of that just does come down to scheduling, right? At that level, it's not like an Oilers game or when WWE comes to town. And I don't think this isn't to, you know, shit on it or anything, but it's not going to get to that level. But if you've got more people who are actively choosing it versus going to a movie on a Saturday night or something along those lines, like that's sort of what you're competing with at that price point. And I think that if you can get more people to come out, like I've long said that, and you guys are evidence of it. You can come out to a live wrestling independent show
Yeah.
and as a non-wrestling fan still enjoy the shit out of it.
Hey, I have so much fun at those shows.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, you're someone who watches wrestling to sort of shit on it in the best possible way, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You come to boo wrestlers, you come to shit on, like,
I enjoy being hypercritical. It's my sweet spot.
100%, but you enjoy it, like, and I'm sure you're not
Yeah.
there and sitting and saying, well, that guy's genuinely a shitty person, right? No one there is.
No. None of them are. Okay, so I do want to come back to local wrestling later. But my next question is, do you think you could operate a successful franchise together?
What do you mean franchise?
Like a promotion?
Yeah, like a full promotion.
Oh, not at this point. No.
It wouldn't be in the plans either.
No,
don't
not
think.
something we would consider. Like, obviously, it'd be really cool.
I love your confidence in each other.
Well,
Both of you just like,
purely-
no, we
purely-
cannot be successful.
Well, half of the thing, even from talking to people like wrestlers, I haven't talked a ton to Kurt Sorokin or Steven Styles or anybody. Like I've talked to him casually, but as far as what actually goes into running a business or running a promotion, like my casual knowledge of it. So sorry,
So
go
I'm
ahead.
not necessarily saying in terms of do you have the current connections to like get a promotion off the ground. I'm saying, do you think that like you two and your working relationship and the like personal skills and basically your strengths, do you think the two of you could together create something successful, or do you think that you need something else to the equation?
We would probably need, like, if Hayden and I were going to be involved in a wrestling promotion at any level, at any capacity, and this is giving us all the complimentary praise I can. Like, Hayden and I have no idea how to write a wrestling storyline. Like, we have ideas, we shoot the shit, we're just like anybody else who's out there on the internet wrestling community. Like, yeah, I would love to see a storyline between Bray Wyatt and Kane and all this sort of shit, right? But
we saw that
again,
already.
Hayden, it's a dream match that just occurs and occurs and occurs.
It's WrestleMania quality.
It's like
matchup.
Cena Orton.
True.
So now, who would make a better general manager? You or Spence?
Spencer. I'll give him the torch.
I manage pretty generally, I think. No,
somehow I manage.
Insert shrugging shoulders here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what fully goes into it. My only experience with it has been watching people and interviewing people. It's never been like hands-on experience. I don't know what a general manager's full role is. Like, outside of booking matches, what else is needed of a general manager? Like, am I going to need to, if I take on a general manager role, am I doing the books? Because that'd be bad.
Probably not. Hiring people to do the books.
I was going to say, that's why you have a team.
Drafting
See,
talent.
but that's what I mean. Like,
signing talent. Securing talent deals.
Other talent-related expenditures.
Paying the energy bills.
I don't really know what goes into any of this.
Take the mic
All right,
back.
so I'm going to bring you guys back in.
Well, no, and I think that, to be honest with you, it just shows the lack of experience I think either Hayden or I have to do it. Like, I would love to somehow get involved in a wrestling promotion someday, even just as a volunteer position or to help out or whatever on that end, but I have no idea what goes into it. I'm sure it's something that you can, like, not learn on the job. That sort of discredits the job a bit. But
well, do you think you could survive a week general managing Raw? 1 week, you're there next week, you have somebody to guide you through. Do you think you would survive? Or do you think you don't have what it takes?
Yeah, I
absolutely
so.
not.
Even if someone was there to guide you.
No, especially with something like that. Like, this would have to be to compare it to when I was cooking, you would need to have somebody side by side you for, I am assuming, at least a couple of months. Like, the big thing with, like, I would have more confidence doing an independent event by a mile than doing Raw. Live television is a whole new animal. And that's why so many, even to compare it on a wrestler standpoint, that's why so many talented wrestlers, like, it's not obvious, but you could make the argument that NXT is far more talented than the Monday Night Raw or the SmackDown roster. Arguably,
that's up for debate.
Yeah, any of it's up for debate. Like, yeah. I don't even think NXT is stronger than SmackDown, but that's neither here nor there right now. I think that a lot of the thing with live TV is learning how to work live TV. It's not learning how to wrestle. It's not learning how to run a show. It's not anything like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you would have the people to help you run the live TV. I'm not saying you're, like, just thrown into it and somebody can help you
you're
make
saying
decisions.
A general manager. General manager?
No, but I'm saying a week.
Foley.
It's like one of those job promotions. It's like a week in the life of.
Are you talking like a scripted general manager? Because I think anybody can walk out there and be a scripted general manager.
Well, that's true.
Not in like a rude way. Like, a lot of people could go out there and do it really, really badly. But I think if you're to go out there, have a couple segments, read a script, maybe take a bump.
I think we need to clear up what responsibilities are going to be assigned to a general manager. Because we have an on-screen general manager, and then we have the, actual general manager.
Well, you guys are way too literal for this shit.
Well,
Can I swear?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
I will lightly hesitate to swear. So, I will try my hardest.
I'm a little confused.
Okay, so.
Move on.
Please. All right. Quickly, getting to know you two. Favorite movie?
After you. I got to think on this one for a second.
I was doing my top 5 the other day, and my top 5 was difficult.
Just answer quickly.
Dazed and Confused.
Godfather 2.
Scale of 1 to 10. How funny are you?
11.
9.
How funny is your brother?
9.
11.
Yes. Okay. Dream dog.
I can't pronounce them correctly, but what's the big white fluffy one?
Oh,
Samoyed.
Yes.
I think it's Samoyed.
I keep saying Samoyed, but I'm
we
not.
always say Samoyed, but I think it's Samoyed.
Yeah, that's not correct.
Samoyed.
Let's just,
I don't know. Somebody can check
that
that.
one. Let's go with that one.
Bernie's Mountain Dog.
Oh.
Yeah, no question. I love those dogs.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Biggest fear.
Buried alive.
Oh.
Damn.
Okay.
That just jarred me.
Hayden, are you okay?
I'm kind of scared.
I'm so
Is
sorry.
yours also buried alive?
No, just free falling through
Please.
space. Quicksand.
Quicksand is a serious issue.
You know, we were talking about it earlier today, Morgan. Quicksand is another one of those things, much like stop, drop, and roll, that I thought I would have to do much, much more often, or I would have to deal with much more often in my adult life.
If I were to install traps within my home, quicksand traps would be amongst them.
I was certain I would face quicksand before I was 18.
Made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I felt like maybe not before I was 18, but I feel like it would have been something that if I didn't have to deal with, like it's one of those things that you know someone who is impacted by.
Yes, my dear friend.
Yes,
Fell to a bout of quicksand.
We lost
My-
quicksand.
my grandfather ran into a patch of quicksand on the Yellowhead.
Oh no.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it would have been something that happened often or semi-often enough. Like, a poor way to describe it is like a car crash. Like, you don't get in a car crash every day, but, like, every so often, like, somebody gets in a car accident.
Yeah, well, we were talking, like, we expected that, I would have to escape a house on fire, like, twice in my adult life.
Right?
I thought that was normal.
100%. Moving on. You were quick firing.
I kind of want to escape from a burning building, though. I'd really love to be afforded the opportunity to escape from a burning building.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if you're guaranteed escape, yeah, but hey, a burning building, see, I think of a burning building, I'm living in an apartment right now. I have one exit out or I have 8 floors to go down. So if that fire is coming through the front door, chances are looking a little tough for me that, yeah, maybe I'll escape, but I'm not coming out of it 100%. I don't ever want to think about getting in a building fire.
Neither do I, but I'm thinking about one with like an old-timey building escape on the side.
Okay, like a
With
movie.
like the slide down.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I get that then.
Okay,
I get
continue.
that.
Yeah,
Morgan,
continue
you're
with
up.
the quick fire
All right, favorite drink?
round.
Alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Alcoholic.
Pilsner.
Mojito.
Saskatchewan water.
Mojito, that cucumber fresh. Okay?
Yes.
Yum. All right, non-alcoholic.
Apple juice. Probably. Apple juice or like I coffee, but apple juice tastes better. I'm going with apple juice.
Coffee.
Insider's perspective, Spencer drinks more apple juice than 99% of like 2-year-olds. It's insane.
It's delicious. It's a great source of vitamin C. Sunripe, my preferred brand, if anybody is curious. Yeah, apple juice, just a good beverage. Don't shit on me for enjoying apple juice. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. Just you drink a lot. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Sorry. Favorite sport outside of sports
Hockey.
Flags. Rugby, actually, probably.
Rugby?
Yeah, I like rugby.
So are you like not a Flags fan at all, or is that just like you changed your mind because you're close between Flags and rugby?
I said or.
Okay.
It's clear.
Like flag, like performing flags.
Yes, absolutely. Not like flag rugby nor flag football.
You mean like color guard?
Yes, absolutely. If that's actually what it's called.
It fully is like parade, like those big flags that go in front of the marching band.
Like Vince Vaughn from Old School.
Yeah, like that's
waving
fully
flags.
color guard.
Okay, color guard or rugby.
The source of the name.
Oh no! You're
idea.
thinking. Sorry, Vince Vaughn from Old School. No, that's
Twirler.
no,
No,
it's an Olympic sport with ribbon. You're basically ribbon twirling. Yeah.
Rhythmic gymnastics.
There we are.
It's real and really hard
Okay.
and annoying that they make it look so easy.
It takes a lot of practice.
That's I think why it's one of my favorite things in rhythmic gymnastics is the baton twirling portion.
They don't make it a sport.
I don't know. I'm talking out my ass here.
They make it a dance.
Morgan, we've got time for 2 more before we're going to take a quick break here on OTTR. You're the host. You lay it down in this quick edition of Quickfire.
Hostess.
What's your brother's worst habit?
He always forgets one thing when he leaves the place.
That's so true.
Valid point.
So many water bottles and hats.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like it's something you could forgive because, like, you're not forgetful, but I understand like why you would forget something. Is I don't often carry a water bottle, or I don't often carry a hat. I carry them just often enough to like utilize them often. I don't utilize them often enough to remember them consistently. But yeah, that would be it.
He talks too loud sometimes.
What? No! Spencer Love?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You piece of shit.
Hey. Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know
That was in jest.
Well. All right. Best fast food fries.
McDonald's, hands down.
Burger Baron or McDonald's? No, Wendy's.
And actually, you know what? A&W's got some pretty solid fries.
No, A&W's fries are shit.
No, I enjoy them. I enjoy how they're. I enjoy the cut fries.
They need to just be like fresh as fresh. They don't even make it like from the A&W into your car or through the drive-through.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I enjoy them. Either way, we're going to take a break here on Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media. Hayden, what network is Backbreaker Media a part of?
Is it part of the Win Column Sports Network?
It is part of the Win Column Sports Network. And
Wow.
who are the Win Column Sports Network podcasts sponsored by?
God, Beercade, I think it is.
You've hit the daily double, Hayden.
Beautiful.
Congratulations. When we come back on this week's edition of Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network, Morgan is going to continue to talk to Hayden and I about why we started a podcast, our love of wrestling, anything she's sort of got in mind. I don't know why I'm hyping it up because I didn't pre-screen these questions.
I was going to say, you have no idea what's coming.
Yeah, she could be asking us more about our favorite foods.
Baton twirling.
Yeah, baton twirling, competitive flags. We could go wherever Morgan's mind takes her on this edition of Over the Top Rope, so stay tuned after this quick word from Chris Parrish and Maniac. Tag struggle on the sounds of struggle.
If you like podcasts and you are listening to them on Backbreaker Media, then you should listen to me, Chris Parrish,
and myself, Maniac,
and the Sounds of Struggle, because we are literally the most entertaining duo you'll ever come across in Western Canadian wrestling, baby.
We talk about things like wrestling,
and other sports we like.
wrestling,
But we won't talk about other sports that we don't like, because it's not that kind of podcast.
like wrestling,
I mean, we like hockey,
and wrestling,
and we like football,
and wrestling,
and we also like to drink beer.
while wrestling.
Well, not while wrestling, but while watching wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get into a conversation with Maniac and Chris Parrish, then you need to tune into the Sounds of Struggle live on Backbreaker Media.
Every Thursday.
It's when we hope to drop, but sometimes Mike Malawany doesn't do his job right.
Or we're too drunk to forget.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
He can bleep out the swear word because we weren't supposed to do that.
Oh,
But
I'll try not to swear. I can't do it.
yeah, let's face it, the two of us, we're real,
And spectacular.
and we're a little bit of all right.
Yeah.
We're also struggle-licious.
That we
That
are.
was kind of the key. Supposed to do struggle-licious.
Oh, sorry, I'm drunk.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to listen to us, then no, you're stupid because we're entertaining. And if you want to listen to us, then come listen to us on Backbreaker Media.
Yeah.
Later,
He said.
Later, bitches.
We're back on Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media, a part of the Win Column Sports Network, where again, you can find all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling, and you can find Over the Top Rope live, hosted at the home of Edmonton Wrestling, Beercade YEG, on 106th Street and 82nd Avenue, White Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta, where you can catch Hayden and I, the Brothers of Discussion, live at every WWE pay-per-view. But
And just some afternoons.
yeah, some afternoons, some Friday and Saturday evenings. You and I are similar. We're both fans of a big arcade game evening.
There are some times where I've gone there without Spencer and just bumped into Spencer. And,
Yeah.
And we'll always have a laugh, and then we'll play some games together.
And sometimes we bump into each other there when we've both told the other we could not meet each other there because we're under the weather or unable to go. But
have
secretly
other
we've made
commitments.
we've made plans to go with other people. It's that awesome. Beercade YEG. But this is unfortunately not all about Beercade. This is about Over the Top Rope. And today, it's kind of nice. It's not just all about our opinions on wrestling. It's all about us, as brought to you by Morgan Meneghetti, our co-host and the one driving the bus on this podcast. Hi, Morgan. Welcome back.
Hello, hello.
You were previously asking us quick-fire questions about why Hayden and I had started a podcast, what our favorite beverages were, many random questions from out there in the universe. It's back to you. You're the one hosting this podcast. I'm passing the ball off. I've officially completed my introduction. This one's all you now.
Oh, now mine. I'm kidding. I'm getting another introduction. The quick fire will come back. But I want to start it off with, what does it take to be a good wrestler?
Hayden, you go first. I think we've probably got like similar but very different opinions on this.
And the thing is, it's all completely subjective. I mean, there are some objective measures of what makes a good wrestler. I
Define
mean,
it for me.
their ability not to injure the opponent. Probably just
You've got a
being,
point.
chief amongst them. An ability to actually connect with the crowd in some capacity instead of just going in there and leaving.
Like charisma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also just bring them in. And sometimes that just goes beyond charisma. Decent ability, good look, more or less it.
All right, Spence?
My books.
I don't disagree with a lot of what Hayden's saying. I think that, for lack of a better way to put it, I think that you do need a certain X factor to you. There's a lot of technically great wrestlers. I don't want to name anybody. It'll sound like I'm shitting on them a bit, but there's a lot of technically great wrestlers who never got there, who could wrestle a great match, who had all the charisma in the world, who just never got over. Like, you can, I'm sure even yourself, Morgan, can think of a couple of them in WWE off the top of your head today.
No.
Right? But for me, I think that you're sort of prototypical wrestler. Like, if you want to be a WWE wrestler, it all does, again, depend on where you want to wrestle, what your favorite style of wrestling is. For me, I think charisma is chief amongst them. I think that The Rock was wildly successful beyond his abilities. Not to say he was a bad wrestler, but he was successful far beyond his in-ring technique or his capabilities because that guy had charisma out the roof.
And that was a different breed of
Yep.
charisma. Like that's the time where it was not in the mainstream with the
It was
with
the
youth.
mainstream.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yep.
And him, Stone Cold Steve Austin, whole crop of those guys that came up through like 95 and 2000.
Yeah.
Like they defined a generation, and that's a different time.
You're completely right.
And charisma's diminished, but even then, like they were all guys that were capable in the ring. They were guys that could cut a promo, and that attributed to the charisma, I suppose. But yeah.
So, if you had 10 points and had to split them between personality and talent, where would the numbers fall?
In-ring talent versus personality, I think you've got to give more to personality. Just based on the fact that even now, like, despite the fact that WWE, you look at it, I'm not as well versed in other promotions, so I would be speaking a bit on my ass, but I think you look at other wrestlers who maybe aren't as technically as proficient in ring. Like, the number one example for me comes to Enzo Amore, and I mean, I know the guy had a train wreck of the last couple of months in that with WWE, and not my opinion to speak on a guy or anything like that, but not made some very good decisions since leaving WWE. not a very good in-ring wrestler, but one of the most wildly popular wrestlers in WWE for a period, paired with Big Cass, who again, not a wildly talented in-ring wrestler in and of himself, but the guy's got over, and I think that if you have the personality, you can get by on just personality, using air quotes here, because you've obviously got to have talent, even like at an Enzo Amore like level. You've got to have some talent to step into a WWE ring,
True.
right?
But that can translate the other way as well. Like you look at a guy like Ricochet, who has essentially no personality aside from being painted as a superhero, who can't cut a promo to save his life, but is still one of the most over guys on the roster,
That's
purely
fair.
off of his in-ring work.
That's fair. And you can, he's a different type, like he works a very athletic style. Like, I guess when I hear in-ring work, again, to use the air quotes, I think of a guy like a Dean Malenko, like a technical in-ring wrestler who a lot of people like will say the, again, internet wrestling community was criminally underrated. I would agree with that, but a guy who, again, you wouldn't say has the most personality to him as far as his in-ring goes. Now, Ricochet
He was
is...
called the Iceman for a reason.
Yep.
Like, he looked like a fucking sociopath.
Yeah.
And he got in the ring.
Ricochet, like, he's got a different type, and this is why I say charisma rather than, like, personality or anything like that, because Ricochet's charisma comes through in his in-ring work, because he's very, very flashy. He doesn't have to really talk, whereas Dean Malenko, like, his in-ring work wasn't very flashy, so you had to compensate elsewhere there if you wanted to be this sort of, like, the way I'm looking at it is as a WWE top guy. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Again, Hulk Hogan, a guy who's good in ring, and even watching his matches in Japan and that, like, arguably very good in ring. But you wouldn't even put him up there with a lot of the quote unquote technical guys of the time, right?
Absolutely not. And earlier in his career, you could say the same thing about John Cena. Like,
Yep.
he's changed a lot of people's minds in the past 3-4 years, if not a bit beyond that.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll give you that. It does take personality.
I agree with you completely.
Okay, now I'm going to bring it back because I seriously want numbers for it. You have 10 points, talent, personality. How do you distribute them to making a good wrestler?
6 the personality, 4 the talent.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7 and 3, but same split. More so to the personality side than in ring talent.
So, did you say 7 to 3?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so given those numbers, between the two of you, who would make a better wrestler? And why?
Me.
Well, yeah, I still think you, because like I'd be a very good manager, I think. And again, I qualify all of this not knowing what goes into wrestling, and I feel like we talked. We don't have to explain the rules of anything, but like as a guy who's never taken a bump in his life, I have to say, like, I've never done it. I can't say I know what goes into it.
But you fell off a roof.
Fell off a roof. That happened.
I think that qualifies as
I don't think that was
bump.
very safely executed, nor something I wanted to execute, but that's neither here nor there.
Joey Janela fell off the roof,
But
and
he at least knew what he was doing.
He still won.
He knew how to take a bump. Joey Janela's a hero. We don't talk poor about him.
Oh, it wasn't an insult, believe me.
So, given that, would you guys go into local wrestling, given proper training?
Probably not. I got a bad back.
Yeah, we're getting old.
I do. I heard it moving a fridge.
I would love to go to a training camp just to have the experience of going, because I feel like even now where I try and qualify as often as possible, and I know Hayden does as well, that we've never taken a bump or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
we are still talking a bit out of our asses, you know
True,
what I mean?
but you super hesitated when I said, would you do it?
I don't think I would. I think as far as actually getting in the ring, having a match, anything like that, no, I don't think so. Going to like a training camp or something, or learning how to take a bump and like doing it to the level that a wrestler did, just to know what it's like I'm not talking doing it once. I'm talking like a day of training camp, just so I can be like, well, shit,
Okay.
like when somebody falls on their back in the middle of the ring, that, you know,
They're not dead.
isn't nothing, and well, exactly,
Yeah.
and isn't
Did I kill them?
exactly isn't nothing, but you see it on WWE and somebody falls on their back and gets right up, you're like, oh shit, that's nothing. So I want to get the experience to be like, oh shit, like you did that for 20 minutes, you did it 30 times, like your back is destroyed the next day.
Yeah.
You know, that level of experience, excuse me, yes. Working a match, probably not. Anything
Okay.
like that, don't think so.
So do you think I could?
Ha! I'm gonna say yes because hopefully you do. 100%. KJ, I know you're listening. Train Morgan.
Do you think I actually
Train
could,
Morgan.
though?
You're far more athletic than I am. I think so.
I have
I
noodle
think
arms
so.
that would not go well in a ring.
The thing that I've sort of observed is like you don't, not to say the wrestlers aren't strong or anything like that, but a lot of moves like you can execute a wrestling match again without being the strongest person as long as you're physically fit. A lot of like strength stuff, like yeah, you need to be strong, but you can
Yeah.
also execute a suplex.
Like, I may not be able to throw a person far, but I can probably
You're not
do
going to
a
be
lot
Brock
of things.
Lesnar. No, but like
Excuse you.
no, I stand by my comment.
I'm a beast.
I stand by my comment.
Oh, are
But
you sure?
yeah, 100%.
Okay.
But I do think that yeah, I think you've got a better chance than myself for sure. I think Hayden as well. Like you're an athletic guy. If you wanted to, you guys probably, and not to shit on myself. I'm sure if I wanted to, just because I'm of the belief that like if anybody wants to try something and do it, they can. I'd probably suck, but I'm sure I could go out and work a match.
You could be the next Mr. Fuji. You
All
work
right.
like 3 matches.
Dude, if I could ever get to a level where I'm like Dr. Kyoto or Thaddeus Archer, even as like a manager or anything like that, all right.
Yeah,
But
next-
I wouldn't even get to there.
Next Johnny Ace.
I don't think so, man. I really don't think it's in the cards.
Man, he has a 5-star match, man. John Laurinaitis. Thank God.
All right, so we're going to pull it into the local scene a little bit. I know you talked about it earlier, but I kind of want to zero in on, like, your opinions of things. So I know you've interviewed a lot of local wrestlers, and it's been really cool to see you get to know them and kind of figure out their personal life on top of kind of how they got to where they are. How do you think local wrestling has changed over the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
It's changed dramatically recently.
Yeah, I think you didn't see, as a guy who's not all that experienced with, let's say, sort of years 5 to 3 of that, I can't even really comment on a ton. I was strictly pretty well going to PWA shows at that point. I can't really comment a ton about what Monster Pro Wrestling or Canadian Wrestling Coalition or Real Canadian Wrestling, who like I go to as often as PWA now. I can't really comment on that. As far as right now, it's been probably 2 to 3 years since I've started spreading out and consistently going to other shows. For me, the easy answer is you can say it's gotten a lot better. I think that, not to say anybody was doing anything poorly in the past, again, is pretty well only a PWA guy, but I went to PWA shows initially because they were the promotion to go to. They put on the best shows. They had the top people. They brought in people like Cody or brought up stars like Natalia Neidhart, who Natalia wrestled for him.
I mean,
Stuff like that.
I don't think that saying a promotion has changed means that what they were doing in the past was a bad angle or not a good move for them.
And I'm not even
I don't
talking.
think it looks negatively on anything that they've done in the past. I think it's just cool to see how they've grown.
Yeah, and I don't even mean like PWA as a whole. I think they've grown as the scene has grown. I think that even now, going to a PWA show now, despite the talent that they had then, because don't get me wrong, very talented then, is still a better show than going to a show 3 or 4 years ago was.
Yeah.
But I think that the entire industry, you can't say the entire industry, but the entire Alberta indie scene, business, I think that it's improved as the talent here is improved because wrestling has entered a boom period. I think it's all a huge trickle-down effect, but the biggest thing that has happened is you've got the Storm Wrestling Academy that has always been great, but lately more than ever is churning out great talent. like Chelsea Green now signed with WWE, Oney Lorcan with WWE, bigger
Bravo.
names, 100% big names coming out of there. I think that you're starting to see more talented wrestlers just as the scene grows, which it's much like working for a hockey team for me. Like it doesn't matter what you do outside of it to really grow the scene. The best thing you can have is talent, and I think that the more talent you're getting in the PWA or RCW or that sort of stuff, yes, they are doing a better job with their production and adding more even on the online element, but the best thing you can have is a talented roster, and I think that the wrestlers themselves are the biggest reason you're seeing a bit of an uptick.
And it's certainly in a transition period right now. And I'll just go back to PWA as an example.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think.
Duke Durango just retired from in-ring competition, but in a beautiful surprise, he returned at PWA's latest show in Calgary and announced himself as Calgary's general manager. So while removing himself as an in-ring talent, he's now opened himself up and is able to give the rub to younger guys coming up in the business as a general manager.
That's so sweet.
But you got an old guard and a new guard. Chris Steele is the guy I'm going to think of right off the bat. My favorite wrestler in the Alberta independent scene, and in the same manner, only in an in-ring manner, is he's able to work with the younger guys. Not to say that MRB is a younger guy, but maybe a Mo Jabari,
Yeah.
and help show him what's what around here.
God, I love Mojibari.
But in the same vein as Spencer, like I can't speak to how RCW or MPW has changed in the past 2 years because I wasn't at any of their shows. And truth be told, I didn't know that they existed. And even just finding out about them a year ago, like that just shows that awareness is increasing. More
So do
people
you
are hearing
think that,
about it.
like, in your last, whatever exposure that you have to local wrestling, have you noticed a change personally, or do you think your exposure is, like, a little too limited in scope to really notice the big difference?
No, it's certainly increased in quality.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Matches are better. There's a greater variety of matches, and now we're starting to see some crossover between promotions. Chris Parrish showing up at New Year's Resolution, or was it New Year's Revolution?
I think it was Rampage. This one's really confused me a ton. Well,
Yeah.
it was all
A lot
three
of
different names.
revolutions.
All three different names had New Year's, and it started with R. So, again, it was the one out in Radway, MRB versus Pride, where Chris Parrish came out. And yeah,
I should have just said in Radway.
yeah, and that's all I've started to refer to it as too. But yeah, I think stuff like that has been huge. I think that you could still see more of a willingness to work between promoters with each other. And this isn't saying that, again, knowing no one behind the scenes to any major extent.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody bears any ill will to each other, at least in the Edmonton area.
You're not saying they're doing it wrong. You're just saying that you would be interested if they did it.
I think so, because I think that you could see a lot of benefit. A lot of the conversation I've heard, and please interrupt me if I'm going into too much of a tangent, but a lot of
I'm
the
happy to interrupt.
thank you very much. But a lot of the conversation I've heard around why they don't work together more is that people feel it will only help the top of a card. But I would thoroughly disagree with that. I think the biggest thing that they're not doing well right now in between promotions is they're all running on the same nights, which I think doesn't help either promotion at all. There are only people with limited time and limited dollars, and obviously can only be in one place at one time. I
Literally splits the fans.
100%. I think that if you were to talk about a talent sharing agreement, like maybe at that point,
Doesn't even need to be talent sharing. Just as simple as splitting up the days so that the fans that love both promotions just as much, all three promotions, whatever,
yeah,
they can go support everybody as opposed to having to choose.
100%. And I think that that's where if they're going to continue, because I don't see it changing all that quickly, where they are going to get together and work on different days, because they do, at least my interpretation would be that they do want to see who runs up better against each other. It's the same way that I want to see how my team does against another team, or the Oilers want to see how they do against the Flames. You know what I mean? Like, who draws better?
Yeah, of course. But, like, there's a moment that the competitiveness between them realistically hurts both.
Yep, and that's where I feel that if you're going to do that, then you may as well open up to a talent sharing agreement. What I'm saying is, like, if you're choosing you're going to run on this night, you're limiting the talent in Alberta to, well, here's what you're limited to working with. For me, I think that if you're going to empower the talent,
If you're doing it to develop the talent, then let
them
everybody
work where
give
they
their
want,
2
because
cents
for
and
me-
let them develop the best.
For me, if a promoter's not willing to pay their talent what the talent is able to draw on the free market, then why? I think that if a wrestler could make, because as far as I'm aware, I don't know what a wrestler makes per show, but from what I've been told, it can't be a ton. I think that if you're able to sort of open yourself up to be available more often, or at a different promotion at the same time, or something along those lines, like, at the end of the day, you're there to build yourself. And I think that for me, a lot of the promotions through limiting, like, you're at some point you're gonna force people to leave, whereas I think that opening up that freedom to them and empowering them as people, and to get all political with it, empowering them as people, and giving them that ability to do right by themselves,
Yeah.
you earn that loyalty. And not to say that they haven't.
Yeah.
This isn't to shit on any promoters, because
Totally.
guys
And
like
I mean,
Kurt Sorokin and guys like Steven Styles and all of that do great jobs. I've never heard anything poor about them, at least from the people I've spoken to.
I think when it comes down to it, and I know that you agree with me for a fact, but like, as much as you want to empower the wrestlers, I do get the business standpoint on things.
Oh,
You want the
100%.
exclusivity to them. Same way as, like, you work in media and sponsorship. Like, you want exclusives over not. But I think that one thing that they're ignoring is the fact that it's a smaller industry on a local scene in Alberta. And when the talent is so great but limited, you really need to give them the exposure and the development that they can.
Yeah.
So that leads to the next, on how many local wrestlers you've interviewed. Approximately how many do you think? Ballpark. No one's going to fact.
To be honest with you, probably like 10 or less.
Yeah? And Hayden, how
Yeah.
many have you been around for?
0.
No, that's not because...
No, well, we sat down with Colton.
Yep.
Yes, Colton Kelly.
Yep.
So out of the ones that you can think of, Hayden, what was the one that you wish you didn't miss?
Michael Richard, please.
Yeah?
No
Why's
question.
that?
Well, and not that I missed it, but I would have liked to sit in on the Nicole Matthews interview,
Of course.
just because she put on an absolutely stellar match at the last OCW show. But MRB is single-handedly, or not single-handedly, sorry, undoubtedly the best wrestler in Western Canada at this point in time.
Yeah?
Yeah, no question. And Spencer had 2 fantastic interviews with them, but still, I'm sure on the next one I'll get to sit in. But they were just stellar. Wish I would have had the chance. Pardon me.
So Hayden, would you rather take more interviews yourself solo, or would you rather be with them with Spence?
Spencer's better at it, and he's a better representative of this podcast, if we're being honest.
Thanks, Hayden. I appreciate it.
So Spence, same kind of thing out of the 9, 10, 7, 12 local wrestlers that you've had on here. Who was, like, just kind of short list on who was quite memorable to have on?
Man, I always hate giving this answer because I
I'm not
always
saying
like prime myself.
The others
to
were
not-
forgettable.
No,
but
and that's the thing. Is like, well,
I don't want to give that impression. I'm
biggest
just
thing
saying
was,
who are
like,
the ones that kind of strike you.
at least at this point, like, I've been lucky enough that the wrestlers that I've gotten to interview are wrestlers that I've gotten to speak to for very different reasons. Like, the reason I chose to interview MRB as one of my first interviews, is one of the, like, the more extensive interviews I did, is he's been my favorite wrestler in the Alberta independent scene for years and years and years.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to speak to Chris Parrish was because I had went and checked out a match of his for the first time because of Mike the Ref, and the dude was unbelievably good. Like, he's probably one of the guys I've been most impressed with watching a first match ever, if that sentence makes sense. And
Yeah.
since then
Shock
he's
value.
just he's grown to me to be on the same level as a guy at MRB. So it was cool to talk to a guy that I thought was equally as talented, but knew nothing about at that point in time. When I spoke to KJ Cash, like that was because I wanted to speak to someone for the first time that was in the women's wrestling scene and get their perspective on that. So, well, yeah, 100%.
Hey,
but,
I'm all for it.
well, but you know what I mean? I think that they're all, at this point, I've been lucky enough that it's not just, I don't like using the phrase just interviewing a wrestler to interview a name or to interview someone. Like, I've interviewed them all for different specific reasons, and I've been very lucky out of it to get what I've wanted out of all of them. Like, it was so cool. You know, you talk about Colton Kelly, like, it's cool to sit and, like, genuinely get to know a guy outside of, not to break fave too much, but, like, get to know a guy outside of a character that, like, still to this day is one of the guys I enjoy booing the most of any promotion, whether it be WWE or PWA. I enjoy booing him more than anybody, but to get to know a guy like that outside of the ring, you know? So, there's the long-winded answer. I think my short-winded answer, at this point, to be honest with you, would have to be Nicole Matthews, because to this point, she is the only one that I have physically had, like, a physical list that I created, said I am going to interview this set of individuals, and I crossed her off first. You know what I mean? Like, always wanted to interview MRB, obviously, but I didn't have, like, the physical.
It's cool. It's
Yeah.
extra cool. Just it's
It's
a
that
bucket
whole
list
little
kind of
bit
little
behind
check
it.
off.
It's a personal victory.
100%. It's literally a check mark that makes the difference for that, and that's, yeah. There's my answer.
Sweet. So then, super similar question, because that was kind of who's super memorable. Who was most surprising? Like, who did you go into thinking that you kind of knew what you were getting into? Who kind of threw off your expectations the most?
Sorry, as I think. Well, the couple that came to
Can
mind.
you think of anything?
Not offhand.
The couple that
What's
came
up?
to mind off the bat were Colton Kelly was one of them,
Yeah.
but for all of the aforementioned reasons, I think Sheik Shabazz. I always have such a tough time with it, but Sheik Akbar
Such a tough
Shabazz, yes, the reigning PWA champion. He was another one because, again, someone that recently has turned face, but was a guy who I had never seen as a good guy outside of the ring. That sounds really mean to say about a person, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Never someone, that I saw as a nice person, and he is just such a nice person. I hope nobody listens to that if he doesn't ever want to be referred to as a nice person. But great guy. I think Parrish was another guy because a great wrestler, but he was the first guy that I got to sit down and have like a full, extensive interview with that I didn't know the person. I was lucky enough with Colton Kelly, and I was lucky enough with MRB where, like, Colton Kelly and I, we'd gone out for a drink prior to that to get to know him and plan out the interview and all of that sort of stuff. MRB, I had a list of questions ready because I knew his in-ring stuff. Chris Parrish, I wrote down, like, the stuff I could find about him online, watched a couple matches online, and went in and just chatted with the guy. So those would probably be the top three. As far as surprises, yeah.
Hayden, do you have any like kind of plot twists for you as a listener?
No, not at all. I mean, all three of them were fairly straightforward and informative interviews. Once again, I'm not exactly involved on the single interview end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd be interested on having you on more.
No, there's a self-esteem boost.
There you go.
Thank God.
Yay, gold star for Hayden.
Not yet.
No?
No.
No? Well, it's waiting.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. So kind of last main question on the local scene is, do you now look at televised wrestling differently because of your knowledge of the local scene and your involvement in the local scene? Because I know it's only grown over the last couple of years, and you were involved in televised wrestling before you were really immersed in the local scene.
Yes and no. I think that I don't watch wrestling any differently because I still have no idea as far as what the technical knowledge behind wrestling. I still have no idea of. So like, I know the difference between a good match and a bad match, but I can't sit and analyze, oh, this guy didn't run the ropes correctly or like stuff like that. So as far as an in-ring match goes, no, I still, and it's something I love is the fact that I still sit there and boo people even if they've been on the show or if you know them personally, or you still sit there and cheer the good guy, and you get involved in the, I guess, proper way. You know, it adds a lot to a show for me. As far as like the production of it, a little bit. Like you grow to appreciate the stuff WWE can do, but you also grow to appreciate, for me, the stuff that the independent wrestlers do. Like I watch a guy.
What WWE can hide, but local can't.
Yeah, but also the stuff that like I'm more talking like the production value. Like WWE is a billion-dollar company. It's the same comparison between.
Yeah.
I always use the Oilers and a junior hockey team. I think that the production value that you can put behind a WWE show does, I guess the way you say it is like, yeah, it does mask some stuff a bit, but I think that I'd more use the word distract. Like you can use something like a backstage video to take away from a mistake or something like that, or you can alter the plot.
Yeah.
I think that you do get a little bit more realness in independent wrestling, is the best way to put it. And for me, I've always just been a supporter of, if you're going to support the professional athletes and the people who, not to discredit the hard work they put in, but the people who put in hard work but are getting compensated what I feel wrestlers should be paid, where you look at people who are getting paid six figures or making good money, making a living doing what they love. I think that you need to be able to support the people who are doing what they love, but are people who are driving up to shows because driving to the show pays their gas bill for driving to the show, or the people who, again,
who literally do it for the love of wrestling, not because it's easy.
Again, and this isn't to shit on WWE or New Japan or Ring of Honor. They do such a great job not only with getting their audience invested, but giving back, whether it be, like, I see so many photos of happy kids at the end of a night from WWE because their favorite wrestler came up and shook their hand and that sort of stuff. But even then, it's such a limited experience with them. I think at a local level, you get the chance to, you know, I reference it often is at a PWA show, you see a guy like Mo Jabari, or you see a guy like MRB out and talking to fans and not just like shaking a hand and taking a picture and giving a set of goggles or whatever, but having a conversation, taking the time, going to the next person, taking the time, that sort of stuff. And I know a lot of that's time constraints again on WWE, but it's a more personal experience. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Hayden?
I think my experience would change more if I went to wrestling events much more regularly.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the baseline, like at the end of the day, even though Spencer wants to, and you can't fairly look at it as like an Edmonton Oilers compared to an AJHL team or a junior league hockey team, in the sense of size, talent, everything like that.
It's just different.
Yeah, but I mean, we're lucky enough to be in Alberta with some fantastic independent wrestling. Like, God knows there's some god-awful independent wrestling out there.
Yep.
If we're speaking realistically. But even when you look at WWE or NJPW, Ring of Honor, they all have some terrible talent as well.
Hey, as I said earlier, love to be a critic. And I found lately the last couple of local wrestling shows I've gone to, like, the matches that I've been pleasantly surprised by have been literally equal to televised wrestling lately. I'm equally as disappointed by some matches and equally as surprised by some. And it didn't start that way. I used to be a little more critical of local wrestling just because my pure exposure was televised and didn't kind of know how to navigate the difference between it. But within a couple shows of going to local wrestling, I was literally sitting there being like, dang, I'm genuinely enjoying every minute of this, and I was surprising myself with that. So I almost agree with you on, like, the more you kind of go, the more you know.
And even back to your last question, like, how much has it changed within the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years? especially recently, it's been much more consistently good
Mhm.
than WWE. If we just want to go back to referencing them, and it is an immensely more personal experience.
Wow.
Like if you're going there 5 times a year, 6 times a year, 7 times a year, even if you're not going there for every show, like chances are the guys are going to recognize you because
Totally.
it is a dedicated crowd
Totally.
going on.
Well, that leads pretty much straight into my next kind of quick fire set of questions. It's a scale of 1 to 10. So I want a number for all of them, and I'm going to hold you to it because last time you guys threw my numbers out the window. So basically, how does WWE do for blank, in your opinion? So the first one is, how does WWE do for creativity?
Eight, but that's not always a positive 8.
I was going to say 4.
Dang, explain yourself, please.
I mean, if we're talking recent trends, like historically, they've been a fantastic company, and if we're just speaking realistically, they've been relatively dog shit. If we want to keep it a simple explanation, keep going with quick fire questions.
Yep. I would give it an 8, but not always a positive 8 because sometimes they make creative decisions. They're just not the right decisions.
So they're creative, just bad.
I think it was creative that they paired Akam and Scott Dawson together on the pre-show of the Royal Rumble. Was it a good decision? No.
Some people are creative to paint with milk. Is it a great idea?
That's
No.
a perfect comparison. Yeah. So an 8, but not always a positive 8.
I like no.
Perfect. Inclusivity.
What do you mean?
Scale of 1 to 10. How does WWE do for inclusivity?
What do you mean inclusivity?
Being inclusive, bringing in kind of different people, different walks of life, like how, inclusive versus exclusive.
A selective 6. I think for me they would be. Give your number first.
Like if we're gonna go back to the last measure, like historically or recently.
Go recent.
Recently they've been a 7.
Historic.
0.
No, probably a 4 again.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that for me, they do a great job of promoting the things they do well, but they also don't do, like, they're going to Saudi Arabia again, which is not a good idea, but they also go out of their way to
Represent.
blank all their mentions of Saudi Arabia from programming or not highlight where they're like. They're very. They're a propaganda machine.
Now that
I
you bring
think that,
that
like,
up, that's just willful blindness on
Yeah.
their part.
And like the Susan B. Again, not to shit on anybody completely who does anything cancer related, but
Susan
G. Komen apparently takes a lot of the money raised off the top to pay for salaries, which to me,
80%,
yeah. And if you're going to be a
80%
company,
Hayden?
something like that.
yeah, and if you're going to be a company that's going to claim you're behind all of this stuff, then be behind this stuff, especially when you're making all-time profits.
You're not a company.
Right.
You're in regards to WWE, I was going to say, if you're talking about Susan B. Komen, like you're a charity, not a company.
Exactly. You know, you talk about, they do great work with the women's evolution, and then they go to Saudi Arabia. So I think that they do a lot of great work, but I still also find myself giving an WWE.
So if I'm
At
being
least
honest,
I would
Yeah.
say every 2 to 3 months.
you may
Absolutely.
disagree with me, but I don't think your answer is an 8.
I didn't give an 8.
I thought
I
you
gave
gave
a
an 8.
selective 6. I
Oh.
gave an 8 for the
Yeah.
last answer.
Oh, I'm good at listening. I thought you gave an 8. I know you gave an 8 for creativity. I thought
Yes.
you gave an 8 again.
No, a selective 6
Okay.
because a lot of steps backward, but a lot of I will give credit for a lot of positive steps forward.
Hey, that's the biggest thing. Well, I'll talk about that later. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does WWE do for the thrill of it? Like for sitting on the edge of your seat?
When they do it well, an easy 10.
Yep.
But they, again, have been relatively inconsistent.
So, like, overall, like, I know they're capable of a 10, and sometimes they'll give you a 10, but if you were to give an average...
5.
Yeah, 5 to 6.
Yeah.
A 5 to 6 because there's
5.5.
segments. There are certainly segments that I cannot sit through. There are segments where I will consciously, like during an episode of Raw, I will consciously plan a half-hour segment where I can unload the dishwasher,
Alright.
or throw a load of laundry in.
Hey, I agree, but
So yeah, but then you get like the Hardys and Mania.
yeah, but half the, and I mean, I'm putting my own words in my mouth, but half the thrill of it is the fact that you're not expecting it.
Exactly.
So aim low, and
That's what we have been doing for years.
Paid off.
All right, scale of 1 to 10. How do they do for injuries?
I think that
8.
in a quick answer, they do an 8 to a 9 as far as taking care of their current talent. In the long answer, the fact that they don't provide any sort of genuine medical insurance for their non-employees, their contractors, their independent contractors, is a genuine problem. I can't critique the entire system because that goes beyond WWE. That's a systemic problem. So, as far as taking care of current wrestlers, I know they've paid for rehab or problems outside of that. Yeah, an 8 to a 9.
Anything else?
Like, and you're talking like the number of injuries or how they do?
Whatever
with
your
regards-
interpretation of it is.
Well, that just leaves it open to interpretation.
Well,
I think that
my
one's gotta be
next
clear.
question is what's the best injury? Because
was
Spence
gonna
knows
say, like-
I love. A
Oh
good
no, I was
injury.
gonna say like dealing with, like I'm talking purely on dealing with injuries.
No, and you answered the question appropriately. Like, how do they do with injuries? But my next question is literally like,
What's the
What's
best
the
injury
best
you've ever seen?
injury?
Oh,
Psycho Sid.
yeah, I
off
was
the
just
top
gonna
rope.
say
tell the story.
that was about a month ago. Was the anniversary of that, if I remember correctly?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it
Yeah, it
was
was
92.
Yeah, it was sold out.
Yeah.
But he basically, so to keep a long story as short as I can, because we got to hit the break and we still got another segment. He jumped off the top rope, I believe it was in a fatal 4-way match. He jumped off the top rope to attempt an axe handle on someone. Don't remember who offhand. Like I
What
wasn't
happened?
I wasn't alive. He basically, you could see in the camera clips, like he landed and his leg just buckled at the knee to the point he
Yes.
looked like a genuine rubber band of a leg. It was horrendous. It was one of the more horrendous injuries I've seen anywhere outside of, not even including wrestling, anywhere. It was horrible.
Yeah, it was a 4 corners match with Sid, who was not Psycho Sid, but Sid Vicious.
Excellent name.
Great.
He was no longer Psycho. He had reined in himself by that point.
Yeah, and Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, and Road Warrior Animal.
Okay.
Yeah, and
This
he
is
was
a-
going to axe handle Steiner.
Yep.
All right. So I know we have to get to break, but I want to get through these 1 to 10s. So
Done.
give me some good numbers. Scale of 1 to 10. How do they do for match pairing?
Oh, 9 lately.
Really?
I disagree.
I'd give it like a 2 to a 3.
Okay, I kind of disagree too. I'd fall at like a 4 to 5, but
I think that they're very good at giving you your initial match that you want. I also think they're very good at running it into the ground.
okay.
I've seen so many iterations of Sasha and Bailey versus the Riot Squad,
Yeah.
which great match, not to take away.
Well, who else would you
Done.
like? And that's just a question of their talent. Aside from the pairing, like you have like 3 babyface women on Raw at this point,
Then there's a bigger problem.
and that's it.
I'll
But,
give it a
like,
2 to a 3.
Yeah, like and you can compare Raw to SmackDown and NXT, but like you look at SmackDown and they've just been balls to the wall lately.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles just speaks for itself. Like even
Yeah.
3 years ago, Hal Spencer and I discussed it before Bryan was cleared on our episodes. I don't even know. We were probably talking about a draft, but we were discussing the dream matches that would be possible if Daniel Bryan came out. And like we've seen Daniel Bryan versus well, I was going to say Lasandra. But
We've seen him versus Joe, versus
Yeah,
Almas,
Andrade.
versus... Yeah.
the
versus-
Miz even.
Yeah.
We saw the Dream Team pairing of Shane McMahon and The Miz, and they're winning the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey's forthcoming. Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
However, what else could I say? Jesus, it's
Well,
an
you can
expansive
give me
list.
a number for the next one.
Oh, okay, let's fire on.
Sorry, I mean. Scale of 1 to 10. They're writing in the last 3 months.
2 to a 3.
Yep, I agree.
Leaving
Okay.
leaving it at that.
Writing overall.
They have a very difficult job. They have a very difficult job, so I'll give them a 7 to an 8.
I was gonna say a 6.
Yeah, I think they've
That's
done
7. 7's probably
noteworthy
the
things,
fairest.
and they've had a really strong season. 7?
Yeah.
I think last year was one of the greatest years in wrestling for WWE. And yeah, there's going to be shitty segments, but if you look at the overall picture, and yeah, like, there is some really bad writing. The last month of Raw has been horrendous. They have a really difficult job, so I'll take away that 8. I'll give them a solid 7.
Okay, worthiness of newcomers.
Yeah, the NXT talent is arguably better than WWE. A 10. Anybody coming out of NXT should be a hit if booked correctly.
The the latest crop of newcomers is a 1 for me. I hate each and every one of them, with the exception of Lars Sullivan.
Is it like a love to hate, or you're actually mad they got
No,
brought
I
up?
genuinely hate them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're not particularly
Oh.
good.
Do you want to talk about it?
No,
Okay.
we're on the quick fire round.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Equal representation.
But NXT newcomers probably 8.
As I cut you off. I'm sorry. 8? Yeah. I think, like, I'm pretty impressed, aside from Nikki Cross, who I hate so much. But, equal representation.
5. I'll play this one down the middle. They do a lot better. They could do a lot better.
Well, it should be a 5 either way if we want equal representation.
Nicely played.
So it's a 5.
Very well done. There is your over the top rope joke of the episode.
We don't need a joke of the episode.
I think it'd be great.
How are their graphics?
Jesus, do you remember those
Yeah.
stupid things? All I see whenever anybody asks me about the WWE graphics, all I think is that big picture of Braun Strowman shouting the word piano and a big like bubble letter phrase of piano. They get a 1 strictly for two reasons. Because of stuff like that. And number 2, they took away Titantrons for people. They get a 1.
1.
There you have it, folks. Theme songs.
Worse since Jim Johnson left.
3.
I'll give him a 4 or 5.
Okay, sidetrack. Favorite theme song.
Ever or right now? No, that's a very specific
Overall.
answer.
Here comes the money, Shane McMahon.
Broken Dreams, Drew McIntyre.
Okay, least favorite theme song.
Oh God, Alicia Fox, this is atrocious.
Shit, this is difficult.
There's a lot of really, really bad ones out there.
Jason Jordan's first theme song.
Oh my God, I had forgotten all about that. I'm like 12% more upset. That's atrocious. Yeah, I'm changing my that's it. Jason Jordan. It was so bad. You know what, side note, I was really happy on Raw during like Angle's retirement speech that he
Jordan-
referenced.
Oh.
I saw the son that I never knew I had.
I didn't watch Raw this week.
He mentions the Jason Jordan son storyline, and it made me it's so happy. Sorry, Morgan.
All right, pay-per-view quality.
3.
6. A combination of 3 and 5.
Both of you look so torn.
Because there's, again, like, you've got to understand that it's when you talk about pay-per-view quality, it fluctuates wildly. It's not even like there's an okay to good. It's like there's some of the best entertainment I've ever watched in my life versus time that like I'm gonna look back on my deathbed and be like, wow,
I wasted my life.
I'm really upset I watched No Way Out that year.
Like, you can legitimately say that you wasted your life watching
time-
some WWE.
Time was
Yeah.
wasted during it. I
Alright.
think
It's like that
pay-per-views
Eagles song.
pay-per-views are probably better than Raw. So if I gave Raw or SmackDown or the overall on that a 6, I'll give pay-per-view a 7.
I'm going to give pay-per-view a 4.
All right, merch quality.
6.
2.
Do you have what's the favorite like piece of merch that you own?
That I own? Oh man, the Happy Rusev Day shirt's great. The Shane McMahon jersey is great.
Favorite.
Shane McMahon jersey.
Shane McMahon jersey.
Dang. All right, what's your least worn WWE merch that you own?
I wear it all fairly consistently, which is nice. I would probably say my Drink It In Man Jericho shirt, but that is purely because I've gotten buff and it is too small for me now.
Oh.
So the shirt that's too small for me.
I've got a Miz shirt that 2 is a size M, so I can't wear it anymore. So that's my least worn shirt.
It's the one that physically does not fit over my torso shirt.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm sorry to hear you both got muscular. Predictability.
Again, a 3.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3. It's fairly predictable until it's not.
Yeah.
Like Roman Reigns getting leukemia was not predictable.
Nope.
I think that's even a bad example because you couldn't really script it.
Horrible
I think let's
example.
more so look like Lesnar Goldberg.
Yeah.
I think that like that whole pay-per-view was predictable until Lesnar Goldberg, and then it really wasn't predictable.
But didn't you even expect Goldberg and knew that Lesnar was going to be there?
Everybody
No,
thought
it
was
was
just a
Lesnar
one-off.
versus Goldberg. They thought it was a one-off, and I still remember walking with Hayden to the event after getting out of the Uber and saying, the only way Goldberg wins is if Paul Heyman turns on Brock Lesnar. I still remember saying that.
All right, and the last one is online community. Scale of 1 to 10.
0.
Oh, man, there's some great wrestling Twitter out there, and for every great wrestling person on Twitter, there's about 10 awful people out there.
So a number?
I think overall, I will give it a 6, because now I've gotten to, you know what?
Well,
That's a lie. I want to bump that up a bit, because I've now gotten to the point where, like, the people I interact with are good people, and I've now gotten, like, quite adept at, like, hitting the mute or ignore or block button on people that I just, and not like people I disagree with, but like there's so many idiots out there, and that's in any profession, I'm sure. But when you get a vocal minority who disagrees, it's like any sports forum. I just feel like in wrestling you get fans who are so much more passionate due to the fact that it's scripted. So I'd give it an 8, but there are some really bad people out there.
All right, Hayden?
I said 0.
All right, good. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the ladies, a little more quick fire that hopefully they quick fire, and then Spence and Hayden will get a chance to ask me some questions. So there you have it, folks.
We'll be back on Over the Top Rope after this short break from our friends over at Power Slam TV. Thank you for listening to Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media, part of the Wincom Sports Network.
Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over 100 of the biggest names in the industry from over 15 countries around the globe. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
We're back on Over the Top Rope on Backbreaker Media. The brothers of discussion, Hayden and Spencer, are here, but not hosting, as we are joined by Morgan Meneghetti.
Oh, we're hosting now.
Well, I'm giving an intro. I am giving a brief look. I'm giving a brief look into the podcast and where we are at with it now. But we are co-hosted with co-hosting, to use the present tense, with
Your
Morgan
guest
Meneghetti.
co-hosts.
Yes, on this one. No, they're not guest co-hosts. Hayden is a regular co-host. I am a co-host. You're a guest co-host.
See, I see it backwards because today you are guests that are co-hosts.
No, that's just an abuse of the term.
You
Yeah,
guys are
Morgan,
upset
you're really-
that I'm calling myself a co-host.
Yeah.
Technically, I'm the only one, so I may as well.
Well,
You're
no,
a
you are a co-host.
You're a co-host today.
I'm not going to argue this.
You're a guest co-host. Yeah, we have
Well,
limited time
everybody,
here because
my
you
name is
ran
Morgan.
over.
Oh, yes, it was me. My name is Morgan. I am on Over the Top Rope, and I have put Spencer and Hayden in the reverse position so that they can answer the questions, and this time I'm the one asking them. So I want to talk women's division. What do you guys think of the current women's division, just overall? You can keep it short, but where do you sit?
Love it. They're doing great work with it. I think that there are a number of talented wrestlers. Obviously, there are some personal favorites that I would love to see put in positions over other female wrestlers, but I think it's fantastic. I think people can shit on Ronda Rousey all they want. She's brought a lot of eyes to the women's division. I think that Becky Lynch has done an equitable, if not better, job of bringing at least eyes to the women's division, both in very different ways, though. And I think that that's the cool thing about where we're at right now heading into WrestleMania. Overall, they've got a long way to go. Right now, I think that they should be very, very proud of the work that at least the women in WWE have done.
Across the board, women's wrestling is doing excellently. But just with regards to WWE, it's doing well as well. But the Raw roster in particular is pretty imbalanced with a heel to face ratio to break kayfabe. And
So
look
that
at
leads right into where I'm going next is what are they doing wrong?
Again, just back to imbalance. Like it's not to spite talent or anything like that. Like God knows it's the most talented women's wrestling roster that they've ever had historically. In some senses, it's even bloated. Like they can't devote enough time to some people. But I mean, there are only 3 women as faces on Raw. There are like 8 heels, 9 heels. It's just ridiculous. But SmackDown's is excellent. It's extremely healthy. It's got a good balance. But Hal Spencer, you're probably much more passionate about this than I am. Take it from here.
What are they doing wrong? The short answer is not a ton. I think that we're a couple months realistically from, Sean Ross Sapp said it first, but I'll agree with him that we're a couple of months away from what is the most important women's wrestling match of all time, and the fact that Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, the fact that Ronda Rousey brought up on Raw this week that their match was the main event at WrestleMania, even in a casual sense, and even in the potential, like putting the air quotes around the Royal Rumble sense of the word, where you're the main event but could be the third match on the card.
Yeah.
But I think that even Ronda bringing that up and the fact that they could realistically be in the main event of WrestleMania is huge.
Like the fact she says that and you don't go, huh.
Exactly. I think now the principal problems with Raw or not just Raw, with the women's divisions on Raw and SmackDown are, number one, simply booking. I think the way that they book some things sometimes is not the best. But
That's
C'est
what
la
I was
vie.
gonna say.
Yeah, I think, but you're gonna find that among any division, which is the least you can ask. If the women are getting the same problem that men have, then that is what it is. I think though as well that they are a little backhanded in doing an event like Evolution, which is a huge landmark pay-per-view, and then 5 days later going to Saudi Arabia, where again, like it's huge. Renee Young goes over to Saudi Arabia, but they're still going into a country that principally isn't known for the best treatment of women.
Yeah.
I think that there is opportunity around stuff like that as far as the actual product. Like, for months, Becky Lynch has been the hottest thing in wrestling. And gender's not a reason for it, but you asked the question, what are they doing wrong? And Becky Lynch is a prime example of what they're doing right.
Yeah. I mean, I sound contradictory even to myself, but I think the biggest thing they're doing wrong, in my personal opinion, and I say I'm critical of wrestling, but I'm almost more critical of women's wrestling because I'm a little more passionate about it overall.
Yep.
That was my biggest issue when I first started watching wrestling was, honestly, it was embarrassing to be a woman who's considered athletic that actually sees a lot of value in women being badass and being a force, and the fact that they were, I'm not saying anything to like I'm not saying anything against the history of women's wrestling, but compared to what they're capable of, they were showing nothing.
Yep.
I think now, as much as like I'm contradicting myself entirely, I think they're showcasing the wrong people too often, and some people that don't necessarily put the best name to women's wrestling are getting a lot of time on the air.
People such as...
I don't want to say names.
Well, you should.
I think Mickie James, I could do without every day for a long time. I think that she's past her prime, and like I know I'm gonna piss off a lot of people by saying this, but like I think she's past her prime. I don't think that the people that she's up against in the matches that she's in, she genuinely holds her own in. I don't think she necessarily deserves what she gets according to her performance as I know her.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, that's she's not one of the people I was talking about, but
Yeah.
when we talk about people who like are in positions that you don't necessarily want them to be in, then that is what it is. But where I come from on that is like for me, I think that a guy like Rusev should be a world heavyweight champion. Or I
Yeah.
think that there should be people who have had championship opportunities that haven't deserved them or stuff like that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's where I say that if that's the biggest issue where it comes down to booking, then okay, as long as the booking isn't something like they're returning to a bra and panties match like they were doing in the early 2000s. Like if it
Yeah.
comes down to they booked this person against this person or she's too high up for where I believe she is on the card, like that's just that for me is a sports complaint. That's like saying
just
this
think
guy shouldn't be playing on the third line with the Oilers.
I think
yada,
the
yada,
quality that they have in that roster is not being used to the best that it could.
yada. Okay.
Because even some of the matches that have some of the wrestlers that are capable of the highest quality matches, they're not able to showcase it because of the way that the match is scheduled. That's what makes me mad. Especially because the women's division has come so far. They've fought so many battles. They've genuinely won so much exposure. I think I'm extra sensitive to the fact that they don't use every moment as best they could. But
Valid complaint.
yeah,
But that's a valid complaint for all wrestling.
that's true. And I guess you could say the same for men's division. But
100%.
I'm just really passionate about the women. really
and
like
there's
them.
nothing wrong with that.
No, I do really commend them. And like when I started watching wrestling, I used to roll my eyes from the kitchen. That's so all right. I used to literally roll my eyes from the kitchen and just be like, I can't believe that this is as far
What it is.
Like this is literally where they are and that they're happy being there. And then watching over the last 5 years, the progress that they've made is like
Huge.
Genuinely huge. Like I did not have high expectations and I was blown away.
No, and now we rightly have high expectations, and that's commendable.
Yeah. So dream matches, dead wrestlers. Who do you want
Dead
to see
wrestlers.
face off
Jesus.
post-mortem?
Hayden, you go first.
I do want to clarify, at their prime, not at their death quality.
Yeah, not right now. Not right now.
China versus Nia Jax.
Or do they both have to be dead? Both dead? Or can it be
No,
like
impossible.
I was thinking both dead, but I'm into it.
Be a tough
any
list. if
China
they-
versus Jax would be massive.
Yeah.
China versus anyone, dude. China in the WWE now would be just an absolute.
And she'd only be in
monster.
like 40.
Yep. Rest in peace.
China versus Shayna Baszler.
Yep. China versus Ronda. Anybody. I'll be honest with you. China versus a lot of the women right now would be huge.
Kairi Sane versus
Absolutely
Sasha Banks.
huge.
Yoshirai versus Sasha Banks. Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey. That'd be tight.
All right, so hypothetically, you can take on anybody you want. What is your dream title?
I didn't get to answer my question.
Yeah, you didn't.
Oh,
you didn't
I'm
let
sorry.
Spencer
That's the second time you've done this. Don't worry, you're a learning co-host.
Spencer, speak at length.
I am going to take a long time to speak about this one. You know, I'll be honest with you. I'm going through a real Roddy Piper phase right now. I would love to see. I know we've gotten it, but I would love to see an in their prime Roddy Piper versus Chris Jericho.
Oh, I thought we were just talking about female wrestlers.
No, we've
No.
moved on.
Anyone, this is a bit of a quick fire. We've only got a
Shit.
bit of time here left in.
Okay, I'm embarrassed.
That was still a good one, though.
Oh, I'm embarrassed.
Hey, don't worry about it. I quite like many dream match scenarios.
Oh, I
involving
was just
China.
naming off women's matches, though.
Yeah, and you were at the end. That's fine. That's okay.
All right, let's redo this. So,
No,
dead wrestlers, dream match.
just skip the question. Let's go
No,
back.
that's fine.
All right, fine, we'll move on. So, as I said before, you can switch your body, you can literally accomplish anything. What's your dream title?
As far as like a job,
No, it's like as far as if you were a wrestler,
My dream title?
Yeah.
Like championship?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be like the champ. I would want to be Universal Champion. I don't.
Hulk Hogan. If we go, didn't you say people that we have to beat for the title?
I don't know. We have to. I don't know why we need to switch bodies. I would just want to be a champion.
Well, because like Spence, I don't know if you, as you are, could win like the heavyweight championship.
David Arquette.
David Arquette
Yeah.
won it. Yeah, there's and he's not the only one, but like anybody can be truly booked to be a champion should someone choose. So I could do. I'm not switching my body. I'm very body positive. I like the way I look. I feel like I wouldn't switch my body. However, I would be the world heavyweight champion.
I love
And
me.
just to prove a point, I would defeat Brock Lesnar for it.
All right.
I would defeat Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship.
I like it. All right. What was your favorite return?
I've got a real soft spot for the Hardys at Mania. That was a very, very cool return to watch live. I guess in-ring return, I thoroughly enjoyed Goldberg's just purely on the fact that we were there. Hayden.
This is a difficult question.
Sorry.
10 seconds,
You
Hayden.
literally look heartbroken. Do
Shit.
you want me to come back to it? Do you want me to just let it go, pretend it didn't
Come back
happen?
at the end of the quick fire.
All right, cool. So, quick fire is word association. So I basically want first word that comes to your mind. I don't care if you regret it the second it comes out of your mouth. First word that comes to your mind based off what I say. Cool? Ready? So, Finn Balor,
Great.
Demon.
Johnny Gargano,
Wrestling.
Good.
All In.
Too sweet.
Mediocre.
Oh, explain.
It was a good show. It wasn't a groundbreaking show.
All right, Carmella.
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
Ugh. MMA.
Why?
Unrelated.
Brock Lesnar.
Beast.
Becky Lynch.
The man.
Great.
Yeah. RCW.
Real Canadian wrestling.
Take the words out of my mouth.
That was 3 words from both of you. Rusev.
Machka.
Day.
Lana?
Crush.
Day.
Like Crush Day, what? Royal Rumble.
Best pay-per-view of the year. I know it's word association. That's
No, one. Alright, fine. Best? Alright.
fine.
Hayden?
Best.
Royal.
Wow. Oscar.
Weird.
Empress.
Braun.
Strowman.
Overrated.
Rousey.
Bye.
Heartwarming.
PWA.
Great.
Excellent.
Mojibari.
Kid Chocolate
Excellent.
KJ Cash.
is dead.
Is she?
Envy.
Boo.
Greatest.
Nikki Cross.
Love her.
Great.
How about you, Morgan?
What? Are you guys actually
Yeah,
like
I love
serious?
Nikki Cross. I love Nikki Cross.
Great wrestler. I don't like her personality.
Sweet Jesus. All right. Well, my final questions just wrap up over the top rope before I hand it over to Spencer and Hayden to ask me whatever they want. Would you change how you started the podcast?
Yeah, Hayden would have been here.
Hayden, would you change how you started the podcast?
After he said that, no.
All right, what's the best part of having this?
There's a lot of great parts of it. I enjoy doing it. There's really no other way to put it. It's something fun to do. Getting to hang out with Hayden's fun with it. Getting to hang out with Parker when he's done it has been fun. Getting to hopefully one day do it with Brendan, who is much in the same situation that you are as far as a wrestling fan, would be fun. I would love to have El Bando on this one.
Maybe Bando and I can coordinate an interview.
I'd love
for
to see you and
guys.
Bando do an interview with Hayden and I, or I
We
guess
would be
audio with your.
fantastic co-hosts.
Yeah, it'd
And
be
we
great.
would be the only co-hosts.
I would love to hear your podcast. No, I just enjoy it. There's not really a best part because it's all
The
great.
conversation.
Yeah, for lack of a better way to put it, without getting too SAWFT.
Ugh.
Yeah, everybody's gonna hate that. There's at least 7 more people who are gonna have your reaction to that.
Hayden, best part.
Making memories
Wow.
with my older brother Spencer and right now. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. All right. What's the hardest part of maintaining it?
Really hard to get audio levels correct when you have no proper schooling on it. I know that. I apologize to everyone.
We do a good job regardless. or
I
you do.
apologize to
Yeah.
everyone / thank everyone who listened to my entire interview with Nicole Matthews because, man, I did not do a great job with the audio quality on that. And thank you to Mike the ref for trying to help me out with that.
Well, you were in a gym.
Yeah, I did. I could have done better. The audio quality is the hardest part of maintaining it.
All right, so my very last question is for Spencer, and thank you, Hayden, for indulging all the other questions. But if you could give 2017, 2018 little starting Spencer podcast advice, what would you say?
Hey, man, you should take a course on like how to set audio levels. I think that it would be a really smart investment for you as you go to pursue this career or even side money-making hobby where hopefully you have good audio levels. Like even now, I know I do okay, but I listen to other podcasts. Other podcasts do better. The other thing that I would say is, what's the best way to put it? Self-promote myself more.
Shameless.
Yeah. Well, because now I listen back to them because like the first time I started recording podcasts was the first time I'd ever like listened to my recorded voice or anything like that. So like even half the time it was like, well, let's put it out there and if people like it, great, they'll send it out themselves. Whereas now it's like, man, I like to think we host a pretty good podcast.
Yeah.
I like it. I like Hayden and I's conversations on wrestling because we have good discussion on it. I like chatting with members of the independent and greater, now by this point, wrestling community because same thing. I feel like we've got a good conversation. There's an abundance of fun to it.
You guys
There's
should
an-
see the dance he's doing.
There's an abundanza of fun.
Oh, another word.
Yeah, affection. Abundance. I think we do well.
So literally just as cheesy as it sounds, like believe in yourself a little more.
Oh God, no.
Believe in yourself.
No,
You should always believe in yourself.
believe in myself. Yeah, that'd be about it.
Sweet.
Cool.
Well, that caps it off for me.
Well, Morgan, a couple of quick fire questions as we wrap up this edition of Over the Top Rope. Perhaps not quick fire, but medium fire, for lack of a better way to put it. The first thing I want to ask you about is this year's Royal Rumble we saw for the first time in forever, it seems like. A genuine interaction of intergender wrestling when Nia Jax sort of, quote-unquote, unofficially entered. And number 30, what are your thoughts on intergender wrestling as a whole?
I think it holds a lot of potential. I think it's a dicey path to start. I think pretty much any way that any promotion were to ever go about it at first is going to get maybe more criticism than praise. I can't necessarily speak towards if Nia Jax was the right answer for that. Me personally, like I was a Rousey fan before she even like came back, anything like that. I was a huge Rousey fan in MMA. And as soon as she came back, that's the first thing I wanted to see is I wanted to see her up against the guys because I know that like she can hold her own genuinely against over half those guys. And so to see Nia Jax be the first one in, although Nia Jax has paid more of her dues, I kind of had my eye on Rousey. Even just like when she first came in, like, yeah, No, yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think there's a lot of potential for it. I think there's more girls than just Rousey, don't get me wrong, that have the potential to really seriously hold their own in that. I think Becky Lynch can. I think Nia Jax absolutely can. Even Charlotte, though she's not my favorite, can seriously, like, hold their own. Asuka as well.
For lack of a better way to put it, it's got to be someone that you believe could be put in a situation to actually succeed. Like, for lack of a better way to put it, you can't have a 110-pound. Someone.
If it was
someone
Carmella,
like
I would be pissed.
Okay.
Pissed.
Okay. Unless, like, would you see someone like Carmella going up against like an equitable
I gotta
guy?
say,
Like, I can't think of a name. I can't think of a name off
James
the top of my
Ellsworth.
head.
Sure, James.
Not
well,
even
no.
Ellsworth, because Ellsworth
Like,
is a joke wrestler in that
Literally, like,
situation. Let's talk
Alberto Carrillo.
maybe like even let's say
Okay,
a guy on
regardless.
205 Live.
I get
guy
what you
who-
mean. Pair her up against a guy who is smaller in size, equal in ability. I still think that the debut of intergender matches is a really effing huge deal. I think
It
it's
wouldn't be the
very
debut.
cool. Well, not
They used to
okay.
do them all.
The
And they still do them all the time on the independents.
destigmatizing of intergender matches.
Okay.
I think starting with Carmella is a waste of legendary power. I was going to say a legend, but I think starting there is a bad place for people to go back and say, like, oh, remember that match that kind of kicked off everything that became normalized? I think that's a waste of a starting point when you have that much talent and that much power. And I'm not saying Carmella isn't talented. I hate the fact that I recognize the insane improvement in her in the last, like, year.
Don't
but
hate it. It's
I
great.
still don't like her.
No, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
I
she's
still don't like her.
Fabulous.
But I just think that it's something very cool. It's something that should seriously be celebrated, and that's something that is seriously should be earned and
Okay.
needs to be given and celebrated for people who literally can hold their own and deserve it.
All right. Second question I have, unless Hayden, you've got one to interject.
I was just gonna say, with Rousey in mind, is she your favorite wrestler?
It's tough for me to say because, like, I don't know if I have a favorite wrestler in particular, but, like, even Rousey in the WWE, I have, like, criticism with and I have my issues with. But overall, as somebody that I can kind of see myself in, even as cheesy as that sounds, like, Rousey is a huge force for that, and she is super believable. Like, I was even talking to Spence the other day, like last week, I think it was. She threw somebody, and I was like, there's no way that they don't feel like they just died. And not even the guys are that believable when it comes to stuff like that. And I know it's because, seriously, she's probably inflicting some good pain on these people. But she's next level for me. And, like, Becky Lynch, I'm seriously impressed by all the time. And there's other women that I'm impressed by. I'm just talking about females here. But, like, Rousey on her own, to me, and I think that's because I was such a huge fan of her in the MMA, is just, like, she has a degree of untouchability for me.
All right, question answered.
Last one I've got for you, Morgan. So let's assume Ronda versus Becky, or Ronda versus Becky versus Charlotte. Some women's match, main events, WrestleMania, it's done. The proverbial, at least from what I can sort of interpret, the pinnacle of the women's revolution, at least from an actual landmark standpoint, has been hit. What's the next step? Like, is the women's revolution or evolution or whatever WWE is calling it at this point, like, is it over, or
No.
what's the next step for them?
I think now is a better time than any for women to start pulling off moves that people have always said a woman will never do this.
Okay.
And there are so many things that even, like, the smaller guys that you were talking about, those are things, like, they will never do this. They're feats of strength, feats of agility. Women have the advantage, some of them, like Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, that have that strength, that between their low body weight and the mass power that they have a huge advantage on these huge guys that are throwing people. Plus, the people they're throwing are so much smaller.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
I think the next level, regardless of the up-and-comers who I'm sure are also incredibly amazing, I don't think you need new people to raise the bar. I think the men, because they've had so much time and so much exposure and so much coaching and so much overall just like power put into them, I think now that the women are getting that power, they have leaps and bounds to catch up to them, and they have the possibility to do so.
All right.
Yay,
Love it.
women!
Love it, love it, love it, Morgan. Well, I'll let you close this one out, or pseudo close this one out, because I do
All
have
right.
to close this one out. I'm contractually obliged.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Over the Top Rope, taken over by Morgan Meneghetti to interview Spencer Love and Hayden. Sponsored by Beercade YEG
Where is it located, Morgan?
on White Avenue, and I believe 106th or 7th.
106.
106.
Nicely done.
All right. They have great games. I highly recommend the basketball and the pinball. And you can find them there for pay-per-views, but I've had a really wonderful time, and thank you both for letting me take over the mic for a little bit, and it's been pretty cool to ask your take on things. So
Thank you. We appreciate it, Hayden. And we both just wanted to thank you. I know I speak for him just so that he doesn't have to do it himself on this one. It was a blast. It's nice to have you on the podcast. We hope to have you on many more in the future. If you ever got anything you want to complain about in the world of wrestling, you do have a forum to do so, Morgan.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Hayden. Same to you, man. You've already got the forum to do so, but it was always a pleasure to chat wrestling with you, my friend.
Hey,
Thanks for
It's
being
always a
on
great
the
time.
show.
And thank you, Morgan. Even though Spencer spoke for me, it was a great time.
You're very welcome.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Spencer, close us out.
Well, Hayden, I was actually going to ask you, where can people find us?
Well, we can find us on SoundCloud, Podbean, Win Column Sports Network website, excuse me, as well as iTunes podcasts.
Yeah, man, we're pretty well everywhere, and with now being a part of Backbreaker Media, you can find us pretty well anywhere that podcasts are played. As you mentioned, we are on iTunes, we are on Google Play, we are everywhere. But if you don't want just great audio content, we highly suggest check out Backbreaker Media. You heard the plug for PowerSlam TV earlier in the show, but Backbreaker Media is a proud member of PowerSlam TV. Check them out at backbreakervod.pivotshare.com. Even if you enter the code, check us out on Twitter. We've got a couple of codes up there for your free 2-week trial on Backbreaker. You won't regret it. There's some great content out there. But there is especially some great content out there from the province of Alberta, Canada, where we, the Brothers of Discussion, are proudly based out of and covering the independent wrestling scene here in Edmonton, Alberta. Once again, you've been listening to Over the Top Rope on the Backbreaker Media Network, a proud member of the Win Column Sports Network and proudly sponsored by Beercade YEG. Thanks for listening.